Hey guys, welcome to Office Hours FM, episode 91, part 2. The part of the show where I hope that the connection actually lasts and we get a broadcast. So sorry for the earlier technical difficulties. This is the joy of working in technology, right? We love it and we love to hate it. So that said, I'm waiting here for my guest, Nellie Akalp of CorpNet, to hop back on the show. We've got some emails going back and forth so she can get a link up and running. In the meantime, thank you for bearing with me. And a couple of things we'll talk about while we're waiting for Nellie. Nellie is an expert with business and law. So if you're talking about business structure, how should you, what sort of business entity should you be? This is the lady to ask those questions to. So if you are watching live, go ahead and start sending those questions in via Twitter using hashtag OfficeFM or on Google using the Q&A app, and we'll get those cranking up. All right, and also, I've got a really special treat for you guys today. Diane Kinney is our generous sponsor. You probably know Diane. I've had her on as a guest on the show several times before. She is giving away a ticket to Pressnomics, a fantastic WordPress business conference taking place next month in Tempe. If you're at all interested in winning and securing that ticket, all you have to do is send in a testimonial to me at hello@Office Hours FM stating, I would love to hear both how the podcast has helped change your business and why you think Pressnomics could help with that. I know it's short turnaround, so I don't expect just a ton of people flooding in, but I will choose one of those, and hopefully you can join me in Pressnomics next month. So yay. Okay, so thanks, Costas, for sending out those tweets. Melanie, I'm seeing that you're, hopefully you're able to be tuned in here. And welcome, Nellie.
Hello. How are you?
All right, we're going to do it this time.
Yay.
Whoop, whoop. Okay, so just to give you, I know we're doing a little bit of a take two on this one, but this is Nellie Akalp of corpnet.com. Nellie, I've already been telling everybody what a guru you are, so we're just going to dive in and start with some questions. We all good?
Yes.
Sweet. Okay, so my first question is from Paul, who actually couldn't tune in live today, but he had what I think is a great starter question. What's the best way to find out if you need a local business license for like a one-person freelance business? He says that he called the city hall and that got him a big, I don't know. So what's your recommendation in terms of places to look to sort of see whatever your local requirements are?
So there's a couple of ways you can do this. You can do it on your own and call the city, call your state, or better yet, just call us at corpnet.com and we can do all the research for you. We provide what is called a business license compliance package, that after a few questions that we ask you, we provide you with all the requirements that your particular business will need as far as business licenses and permits. And the fee is only $99. We'll do all the research for you and we'll provide you with the research results. And if it's determined that your business requires either one or two or several licenses and permits, we can also assist you with obtaining those licenses and permits on your behalf.
Gotcha. Now, this is probably a little bit of a silly question, but are you only applicable in the U.S., or do you also help Canadian and European or outside other countries?
Great question, Carrie. We can assist anybody who would like to start a business or obtain business licenses and permits within the U.S. Our services are only provided within the U.S. and we provide to all 50 states within the U.S. However, whoever is a Canadian or out of the country, we can also assist them as long as they're starting a business or forming within the U.S. I just wanted to make sure we're clear on that.
Okay, thank you. So let's back up the bus to, let's say, I've decided that I want to start building websites for clients. I'm taking on a few clients, and is my very first step. I'm just using my name, Carrie Dills. I've got no doing business at. I literally just hung out my shingle. What's the first step in evaluating, like, when you need to make that step into either doing a sole proprietorship or an LLC, or what are some of those initial sort of factors that you look at to see what kind of entity would be the best for a business?
Okay, so that's a great question. And in answer to your initial question, once you start making money and you deposit those funds in your bank account, the IRS is going to want a piece of it, as you know, because if you're getting income, you're going to get taxed on income. And again, I'm not a tax expert, but the general rule of thumb is that if you're providing a service and generating income for that service or product that you're selling, you're going to get taxed, and you're going to have to pay a portion of it as taxes to the IRS. In answer to your question as to if I'm setting up my shingle as Carrie Dills without any fictitious business name or any other type of legal business structure set up, you are automatically coined as a sole proprietor. By doing business under your own name, you are doing business as a sole proprietor, and the income that you'll report is on a Schedule C of your personal income tax return. The fictitious business name filing part of it is only if you'd like to do business as a fictitious name. So for example, if Carrie Dills wants to do business as Carrie's Website Design or Carrie Dills Website Design, in that regard, we file what is called a fictitious business name filing in the case of you being a sole proprietor and having business or doing business as Carrie Dills Website Designs or Carrie Dills Website Design Services. So whether you file or not, automatically you're coined as a sole proprietor. But if you want to do business under any other fictitious business name and are going to be accepting checks under those other names and would like to deposit those checks within your bank, the bank will need to know. And for that reason, you will need to file what is called a fictitious business name filing. And the same is true for a partnership in the case of two or more people wanting to do business, whether it's under their own name or under a fictitious business name. So really the trick and the question you want to ask yourself is, am I going to be accepting checks from people under any other name? And you can do that, and those people are going to write those checks for you. But the hiccup will be when you go to the bank to deposit the check, because if the bank doesn't have the fictitious business name on file, then you're going to have a problem depositing those checks at the bank. Does that make sense to you?
It makes perfect sense, and I ran into that years ago when I started doing business. I did end up filing a doing business as, or a DBA in my local county, because when I went to the bank to deposit that first check, they said, "Sweetheart, we're going to need you to get one of these before we can take your money."
So you got a little back to this.
Yep. I was about 22 and didn't know any better, but I had my first lesson. But you make a really, I'm glad you made the point of, as soon as you start doing business and you're ready to take money, even if, whether it's under your own name or a fictitious name, you are classified as a sole proprietor.
Sole proprietors.
You file.
Exactly. And I'll just recap it for you. So a sole proprietorship is one person doing business under their own name or under a fictitious business name. There is absolutely no liability protection or asset protection. You are personally liable for all of your acts and for the acts of the business, God forbid if you wrong somebody. With a sole proprietor, if you choose to do business under your own personal name, then if you start getting checks under a different name other than your name, you're going to have problems at the bank depositing those checks unless the bank has on file a fictitious business name filing and on notice that you, Carrie Dills, are also doing business under various other names and accepting checks for your products and services under those other names. This is also true for a partnership. A partnership is just like a sole proprietorship, instead of that it's two or more people doing business together. It's like a marriage. If you do something, the other person is going to be liable. If the other person does something, you're going to be liable. Again, there is no asset protection here. This is not a legal separate type of business structure. It's just like a sole prop, and everything personally is up for grabs. But it's, in this case, it's two or more people doing business together. And again, if you together do business, you can do it under your personal names. But in the event you want to do it under a fictitious business name, again, you have to file what is called a fictitious business name as a partnership with the state or county, and then file that with your bank.
That sounds like a terrible idea. A partnership at that level. Well, you brought up an interesting point, and Cheryl actually has a question about it. But so the liability question. So in my work, and a lot of the folks listening to the show, we build websites for people, and those websites are, say, e-commerce sites where people are, using their credit cards online, and say for some reason, there's a security issue on a client site, and God forbid, credit card information gets taken, and somehow me as the person who built that site, comes to have some responsibility, at least in the eyes of my client, maybe. Would an LLC protect me
So, Carrie, you brought up a great topic for us to dive into. So, as I mentioned to you, the sole proprietorship or the partnership are the simple type of business structures out there that do not offer any type of liability protection or asset protection for the business owner. That's why we get into business structures such as the limited liability company, which also is referred to as the LLC, and the various types of corporations. The most common are the corporation. That's the most formal type of business structure. We don't recommend that for a small business owner because of the whole idea of double taxation. For small business owners, we recommend the S corporation, which starts out as a C corporation by filing articles of incorporation with your Secretary of State's office in your state. And then you file what is called a subchapter S filing with the IRS, which is by way of IRS Form 2553, to be treated as an S corporation to avoid double taxation as a small business owner. The beauty of the S corporation is such that you get all the benefits of liability protection along with asset protection, but you don't get to pay double taxation as a normal C corporation would. With the S corporation, again, the general benefits of incorporating your business are liability protection, credibility, asset protection. As a corporation or an LLC, you may be entitled to more tax savings and an added layer of privacy. With the S corporation specifically, it's great for a small business owner who can qualify because the IRS places strict limits as to who can qualify to become an S corporation. You have to be a resident or a citizen of the US. There can only be up to 100 shareholders within the corporation. There can only be one class of stock, and you have to make the election within 75 days of the corporation being filed or when the corporation has started doing business. But for those small business owners who want that liability protection and want that protection against their assets, in addition to that added credibility of having that INC next to their name and that tax savings, the S corporation is a great business structure for those who can qualify. However, beware, you may want to conduct and consult with your tax advisor as to whether go S Corp or LLC as far as tax purposes are concerned, and which will provide you with the most tax benefits. But again, for a husband and wife business who wants to be on payroll, who wants to be an employee of the company, who wants to reinvest the profits within the company, we always recommend and see our clients here forming S corporations. It's a really, really great small business structure for the small business owner. And again, the formalities, yes, it's a corporation, so there are some paperwork, there are some formalities that you'll have to upkeep with. But again, you do not have to pay double taxes just like a normal corporation would. All the profits and losses flow through and are reported on the individual shareholders' tax return only once, so that the shareholder is getting taxed only once personally and not at the corporate level.
Well, that certainly sounds like a better plan.
So with that, I'd like to go through the LLC, which is the next business structure. Again, the LLC stands for the limited liability company. I refer to this entity as you get to have your cake and eat it too, because you not only get the benefits of liability protection and asset protection and that credibility and that added layer of privacy and the tax savings, but on top of that, you get to eat your cake too, because there is literally minimal formalities with the LLC. The LLC is strictly governed by one piece of document, which is referred to as the LLC operating agreement. So for those small business owners who want that liability protection but do not want to deal with the hassle or headache of a lot of formalities, the LLC is great. And with the LLC, anyone can qualify to become an LLC, a trust, an estate, an out-of-stater, a non-US resident. Anyone can be a member of an LLC. It's great for the small business owner. Again, great liability protection, asset protection, minimal formalities, and it's offered in all 50 states.
Okay, so why would I want to be an S Corp when the LLC sounds so much more glorious?
Because as a small business owner, and with some small business owners, for example, we're an S corporation. Why? Because we are fully involved within the day-to-day aspects of the business. And tax-wise, it's more beneficial to us because as business owners, we also want to be employees of our corporation. With the LLC, as a member of the LLC, you cannot be an employee of the LLC. So you cannot accept a paycheck from the LLC. If you want to make a draw from the LLC, it's literally in the form of a draw, which in some cases, your self-employment taxes as an LLC may be higher. So for that reason, we recommend that you consult your certified public accountant, financial advisor, tax advisor to see what is the best route for you as a small business owner with your business and how you'd like to reinvest the profits within your business and how you'd like your shares within the business allocated. And they'll be able to tell you whether S Corp or LLC is the best way to go. But keep in mind, if you're going to be having more than 100 shareholders or more than one type of stock, then the S Corporation is definitely out. And the LLC is your only option, or going the C Corporation route. But we as a small business owner ourselves recommend S Corp or LLC for other small business owners, unless, again, from the get-go, you have an exit strategy. From the get-go, you're trying to raise funds, you're trying to raise venture capital. Then the C Corporation, although a lot more formal, will give you as a consequence that double taxation that you may have to pay but that may be the option that you may have to take if that's your strategy from the outset of starting the business.
I tell you what, you need an advanced degree just to understand all the nuances of it, which I think is really intimidating when you're, as owner operators, we're good at what we do. We're great developers, or we're great pie bakers, or whatever it is. We're not great accountants. We're not great legal eagles, and so it's. I know that's a barrier for a lot of people that are wanting to get started, is just sort of being able to unravel the complexity of.
It is, Carrie. And that's why, I mean, we have great tools and resources on our website. I don't like to self-promote a lot, but I like to promote the tools and tips that are available to the small business owner. For example, with talking about this topic of business structures, we've come up with a great tool, which is called our Business Structure Wizard. That's been created by attorneys and accountants. And it's a wizard that takes the small business owner through a 3 to 5 minute interview based on who they are, what they do, their type of business, and how they want to be taxed, and how they're going to be reinvesting the profits in the business. And at the end of that questionnaire, if that small business owner is questioning what type of business structure they need to be or to form in order to protect their assets, it spits out the recommended form of business entity for them. So that tool has been told to us that it's a great tool. It's a very informative tool, and it really, really, really takes that small business owner and puts them on a direction and on a roadmap that they need to go in order to protect their assets.
That is awesome. So over at corpnet.com, you can look for the wizard.
Yes, it's actually right off of our homepage. It's called the Business Structure Wizard, and you can come to corpnet.com homepage and search for it, or it's right off the homepage, right in the Start a Business box.
Awesome. We'll be sure and include that in the show notes. That sounds like an excellent resource. We've got a question from Jackie, and she says, when you're deciding to incorporate, how do you decide where to incorporate, like state? You hear of all these Delaware corps, and does it matter?
Great question. Generally, frequently asked questions when it comes and surrounds the topic of incorporating a business or setting up an LLC is, what type of business structure? Where do I set it up? How do I set it up? And when do I set it up? So the question that we've been asked by the audience here is, where do I set up? As a general rule of thumb, for a small business with less than 10 employees, it's best to incorporate or set up the LLC in the state that you're physically actually located. There's a lot of hype about Delaware, Nevada, and Wyoming corporations and LLCs. However, you are going to be shooting yourself in the foot by setting up in a state other than the state that you're physically located in. And the reason why, it's because your state's laws and tax laws are going to apply to you. And if you set up in Nevada, Delaware, or Wyoming, and you're, for example, conducting physically your business in the state of California, California laws are going to apply to you. And now you've subjected yourself to two states' filing fees and requirements. So as a general rule of thumb, it's best to incorporate or set up the LLC in your home state, the state that you're physically located, the state that you're planning to open up your bank account, to accept funds, to transact business in, and where your servers are located, where your employees are located. Now, keep in mind, people always ask, well, we're an internet company. We conduct business in all 50 states. Well, I'm going to again use our company as an example. We are an internet company as well, and we conduct business in all 50 states. But where are you located? Where are your employees located? Where are you actually accepting those funds? In our case, it's in California. So we are a California S corporation. Does that make sense?
It does. So pretty much it boils down to your mailing address in terms of where you conduct or the state you're conducting business out of?
It actually boils down to where you're physically located, because the mailing address, you can have a private mailbox anywhere.
Okay.
The registered agent address is really where is the physical office of the company, but it really boils down to where your servers are, where your corporate headquarters are, where your employees are, where you are. And again, the general rule of thumb is if you're conducting the majority of your business in California or state X or Y, that's where you need to set up. Otherwise, setting up in another state is going to make the state that you're physically located in force you into filing in that state as a foreign corporation or an LLC. So again, incorporate in your home state. Otherwise, you're just buying yourself a ton of headache, ton more paperwork, and a ton more fees.
Keep it simple.
Simple.
Yeah, I like that. Costas has a great question. He says, so if you have a clause in your contract, so they were doing a project for somebody, and as part of that, we have a contractual agreement, and you write in there a line that, any liability for this won't exceed what you paid for the product or this service. Does that have any teeth to it when it comes to legally speaking?
Again, I'm not privy to answering specific legal questions, Carrie. And the reason why is because our company CorpNet is a legal document filing service. We cannot provide legal, tax, or financial advice. So with this particular question, it's going to cause me to provide legal advice, and I can't do that because he's not my client and I don't want to get in trouble. So I apologize to you.
No, it's all, well, a lot of these things are interconnected. So, I mean, some of it's, what you might seek a tax attorney for, some of it's what you might seek your certified public accountant for. Like there's all this overlap, and sometimes it's hard to know kind of what falls under whose domain.
Absolutely. And in Costas's case, the question that came through, that seems to be a general business contract that he's entered into. And I would just take that to a local business attorney and find out if the contract prevails, or if there was any other type of language or statements that were exchanged in addition to that. But generally speaking, as a general rule of thumb, if the parties have entered into a contract and they've all signed that contract, the contract generally prevails.
Makes sense. All right, we've got time here for a couple more questions, so get those in using hashtag OfficeFM. So I've got one for you, and that is, how easily can you move between one sort of incorporation to another? Let's say I'm an LLC, and I decide, maybe an S corp was
so
around.
Is the question, can I convert my corporation into an LLC, and can I convert an LLC into a corporation? Or is the question, can I convert my corporation from one state to another?
Oh, well, I'll take the answer to both of those questions, Nellie, for...
So Carrie, in answer to the first question, generally speaking, most states will allow a business owner to convert from one type of entity to another and vice versa. So if you're an LLC and want to convert to a corporation, most states generally offer what is called a conversion. And the way the vehicle to do this is to file articles of conversion to convert your corporation into an LLC, or vice versa, from an LLC to a corporation or an S corporation. For those states that do not offer articles of conversion, you can still do this by dissolving the entity that you currently are, whether it's a corporation or an LLC, and then starting the other type of entity that you'd like to end up becoming. So the answer is yes, and there are two ways of doing it. You either do it by form of a conversion or by form of dissolving the initial entity and starting a new one. With respect to the second question that I brought up, as far as moving your company from one state to another, again, there's two scenarios here. One is, the question is, well, am I expanding my business? And am I just expanding into another state, or am I physically moving my operations to another state? In the case of the first scenario where you're expanding your business and you're still going to be conducting business in your original state, but expanding into other states, that's very easy. What the corporation or LLC does in the original state, foreign qualifies in the other states that they're planning to do business in. And that's by way of foreign qualifying the business by filing foreign qualification documents. Again, all of these filings that I'm talking to you here, you can either do it on your own, you can have an attorney or accountant assist you with, or you can use a reputable online resource such as the one we provide here at CorpNet to handle all these filings for you at a minimal service fee. In the case of the second scenario, whereby the business owner is completely shutting down the company in state X and is planning to relocate the company into state Y, what we do in that regards is we dissolve the corporation or LLC in state X, and we start a new corporation or LLC in the new state. So those are the two options. And again, we can assist and handle all of these filings for the small business owner, or you can directly go to the Secretary of State's office within your state and do it yourself if you're an avid filer and like the hassle and headache of dealing with these tedious business filing documents.
I don't know, holiness of my youth. So, you know, I went out and spun up DBAs like they were candy, and, you know, just had them all sprung all over the place. And what I did not realize is that when I was ready to not be DBAing that anymore, that I needed to let the state know that I was not doing that anymore, because I found out that I still had some taxation liability for businesses that I was not operating.
Yes. If you've decided to not conduct your business under any active DBA filings you have on record with your state or local county, the right way to handle those filings is obviously to cancel those DBAs and to give notice to your state or local county office or county recorder's office that you'd like to cancel those DBAs.
Good deal. So what this might be outside of your purview category, but when it comes to and then sending 1099s to contractors, I have a question on that. Or would an answer be illegal?
No, go ahead and shoot your question to me, and I'm going to see if I can answer it for you. Go ahead.
Sure. So I have a situation where this past year, I had multiple contractors, and historically, I think the law has been if you paid them over $600, then you owe them a 1099 at the end of the year or in January.
Unless they're a corporation or an LLC.
Okay. In which case, what's the stipulation there?
If the general, and you're absolutely right, the general rule is that if you have an independent contractor and they've provided services to you of more than $600, then you have to 1099 them. The exception to that rule is if that independent contractor is an S corporation or an LLC or a C corporation, then what they need to provide you with is a W-9 form, and then it'll take care of that issue and you don't have to 1099 them. But again, Carrie, this is a question that is and should be posed to a certified public accountant or a tax advisor, as they're in a better, more equipped position to answer these questions, because there's tons of exceptions to these rules. But those are just the general rule and the exceptions to the rule. And I'm sharing them to you as a small business owner because I'm in that as we speak right now. And I got a ton of 1099s across my desk. and then ones that we didn't have to file 1099s for because they were a corporation or an LLC. So as long as we have a W-9 on file for them, we don't have to provide them with a 1099.
Interesting. Yeah, I had I actually asked my CPA about this, and the answer I got back was surprising to me. That if I had sent payment to these individuals, not a LLC, if I had paid them back to them a 1099, paid them in any other format, like via PayPal or credit card or whatnot, that I had no liability to 1099 them. And I found that incredibly curious.
If it was under $600 or over $600?
Over $600. That's why I was seeking some clarification on that, because it really just didn't sound right. But I've seen it documented in now several places, so I might follow up with the second CPA.
Yeah, I would definitely follow up. But if you have, if you've paid people in whatever format you've paid them, and it adds up to more than $600, then you have to file a 1099 on them. However, I do know that the exception to the rule is if they're a corporation or an LLC or an S corporation. And there's exceptions to that rule, of course, but with those scenarios, I do understand that as long as they provide you with a W-9, that it takes away your requirement of having to file a 1099 on them. But again, I'm not a tax expert, and the best person to ask these questions would be your accountant.
Well, Nellie, I want to put your mind at ease. We're not going to hold you personally accountable for, we'll just say it right here, that you weren't paid anything to come on the podcast, and therefore you have $0 liability for anything that happens as a result. How about that?
I appreciate that.
Just teasing with you. So I've got time for one more question here, and I'm going to take this one from Jackie. Another fantastic question. I've got really awesome listeners, Nellie. She asked, when buying another business, how can you protect yourself from any prior liabilities that they might have?
Oh, wow. Straight legal question. So I'm going to speak in general terms. I've been in the side of selling a business. In fact, my previous company was acquired by a publicly traded company. And really the answer to that is doing your due diligence before you purchase that company. That due diligence period is critical to finding out what types of relationships the business you're trying to purchase has entered into, whether they've had legal consequences as a result, and really looking at every part of that business, who their current clients are, who their vendors are, who they've entered into contracts with, who they owe debt to. That all happens after the letter of intent to purchase that business gets consummated. And during that due diligence period is when you really can size up whether this is a viable business for you to purchase. And then depending on the results of your due diligence and the information that you acquire as a result of doing your due diligence, then you can basically create a contract that protects you as the purchaser of that business, and also limit your liability as to what you will take on and what is the responsibility of the seller towards you as the purchaser.
So basically it's like you're dating and you've committed to dating, but before you tie the knot, you need to Google this person.
Exactly. And make sure you have a great attorney. For us, we made sure that we were represented by the best attorneys in the industry when it came to selling our company, because as a seller, again, we were going to be liable if, things happen. So we wanted to make sure that we were represented, and during that due diligence period, that we were providing all the information that the purchaser needed so that we weren't on the hook later on.
Awesome information. Nellie, thank you so much for coming on today and sharing some wisdom nuggets with us. If people would like to follow up with you online just to say hello or check you out, where should they find you?
I'm on Twitter at CorpNetNellie. You can follow me at CorpNetNellie or direct message me on CorpNetNellie. I'm also on Instagram at CorpNetNellie and on Facebook at Nellie Akalp. You can also reach out to me by email to info@corpnet.com or visit us online at www.corpnet.com or just pick up the phone and dial 1-888-281-7111.
Well, my goodness, if somebody has a hard time finding you, it's not for lack of you providing the avenues to be found.
Thank you so much, Carrie, for having me on your Hangout. And I wish you and your listeners a very, very great day and best of luck.
Thanks, guys. And for the rest of you out there, mind your P's and Q's when it comes to setting up your businesses, and check with, as Nellie said, check with your CPAs, your attorneys, and make sure if you have questions that you're seeking actual legal advice. And then Kostas, thank you very much for tweeting that business structure wizard. So if you want to check that out over at corpnet.com, do that. Yeah, and don't forget, if you heard earlier on the show, we are giving away a ticket to Pressnomics next month, courtesy of today's sponsor, Diane Kinney. If you want to participate in that, shoot me an email, hello@officehours.fm, stating why you think that would be an awesome thing for your business for you to attend. And with that, guys, I'll sign off, and we'll see you next Thursday. Bye.
Bye.